When we are in presence, there isn't that worry about the past and there isn't that worry and concern about the future. The role of the state of the leader has a physiological and psychological impact on, at a subconscious level, the individuals they are leading.
When we're present, it's the full control of now and how we respond. When we do that, it's taking away from our ability to engage, to be able to build relationship. Our attention spans are shorter. We desire more stimulation to stay engaged naturally. It possibly requires more intention to be present.
Podclass acknowledges the traditional and true custodians of the land we meet on here today, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. We're grateful to be here.
So no one told you teaching was gonna be this way. Your lesson plans are jokes, your patience broke, you're feeling in disarray. It's like you're always stuck in report writing, when it hasn't been your day, your week, your month, or even your school year. But I'll be here for you.
When the students start to riot,
I'll be here for you.
even if your coffee's gone cold,
I'll be here for you, 'cause you're there for them too.
Hello and welcome back to Podclass. You are joined by my friend Will Masara. Hello.
Buenos dias.
Hello. Oh, the languages are back.
absolutely.
We love it. Myself, Amanda, and our co-host Sky is looking after her beautiful son,
I thought you were about to
Max.
introduce her. I'm like, where? Where is Sky?
Sky is with beautiful Max, and we love that.
So, the gift of just the first ever one-on-one podcast episode.
Here we are. Let's do it. And we both love a yap, so it's perfect. This is the one about presence. And presence is really interesting because I feel like it is spoken a lot about, and yet I don't know if as a society, as a humanity, we have become really familiar with what it actually means, what it actually feels like, and what it actually looks like, and the benefit of presence both to us as people, but also to the others that we're with.
But what I believe is that potentially we're more familiar with non-presence or the lack of presence and when it exists.
Interesting. Say more.
Well, I think because the way that the world is obviously technology, blah, 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 we connect less as individuals. We possibly think that the lack of presence is more normal than being present into a time or a place or a situation.
And what would you say are the contributing factors of that?
One would definitely have to be technology. I love technology, and also we can still be present with technology. Everything that I'll say will probably be a contradiction as well.
Okay.
I think another part of it is, of course, COVID and our lack of ability to just connect and realize what is happening in the moment. And then the third one is the extreme accelerated change that we've experienced
In the world.
which means that our attention, we've spoken about before, but our attention spans are shorter. We need more stimulation to stay engaged, or we desire more stimulation to stay engaged naturally. Whereas now maybe presence, and you can disagree with me, but I think now it possibly is it requires, I was going to say more presence to be present, but it requires more intention to be present, right?
Because life is so full. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and it was some business leaders, and they were actually discussing presence. But what they were talking about is how much things have changed for us as adults in our careers and in our work lives in the last 10, 20 years, in the sense that it is so much harder to shut off. Like if we think about it, before we had computers in our pockets in the form of phones, before we all just had laptops and work followed us everywhere, shutting off and being present in home life, with family members, with friends was a lot simpler because it was a lot more black and white as far as when we were on for work, when we were on for home. And I think those lines have become great. They've great.
And I applaud and congratulate anyone who does do the shut off afterwards. Like it's enormous, and probably in business and whatever, a lot of roles there's going to be where that can't happen, or that is harder to do and takes a lot of intention. And like even for the news follows you everywhere. I was at breakfast with my mum this morning. She had told me 3 different news stories from like 3 different parts of the world that had all happened in the last like 6 hours. And I'm like, it used to be a news bulletin once a day.
Yeah.
But I guess the reason why this conversation came up is because I actually reflected the other day. I am now back in delivery in Australia, working within schools. And I sat down with yourself and Bonnie, our programs manager, the other day. And I said, I really struggle with programs and delivery on programs because I have the responsibility of managing 2 organizations. And sometimes when I'm in delivery, all I can think about is the house is burning behind me and trying to move between the two constantly.
And what you were articulating to us was it's really challenging to be present in your facilitation and in those programs when there are so many other factors going on.
And my frustration with that is that I expect my facilitators to be fully present with the young people in their room, and I take the responsibility we have when we have the privilege to work with young people so huge that I couldn't do it. I found that maybe it was like humbling, but also just so much frustration for myself too there.
But it was really lovely. You said, what do you do and how do you handle it? Because you acknowledged in that moment, oh, Amanda and Bonnie, you also must experience the same thing. Like you'll rock into a program, whether that's a couple of hours or a whole day or a number of days. And you also have different versions of burning houses behind you that you're aware need immediate attention. Like, what is your answer? And we both came back with, it's about presence. Like, it has to be, if we are not completely present, we are not completely in flow, then we cannot serve to the best of our ability. Yeah. And I really believe, you spoke about some of the factors that you see as contributing to maybe us being less present in general. And I would say that all of the things you raise, and this is where maybe a bit of my woo comes in, or maybe a bit of like the
woo-woo.
Maybe a bit of like the, we do a lot at Youth Engagement Project. We do a lot of research around psychology, around physiology, around the state of the individual and the impact and role that plays when we are serving specifically young people. And so I believe all of those factors you've spoken about, feeling more disconnected, COVID being a challenge, being constantly online and aware and awake to not only what's happening in your life, but what's happening more broadly in your career, what's happening in our country, what's happening across the whole world. I believe it's connected to our state as people, because being feeling regulated and having a system that is regulated is the recipe for presence, in my opinion. And I think all of the natural ways, all of the natural byproducts of how we may have regulated our nervous system previously, prior to life being so overwhelming all of the time, I think they have reduced to the point that now you made the comment, I think it takes so much more intention to be present, and I think that's what it is. I think because naturally we would get bored, have space, sit down with a book, go for a walk, listen intentionally like to music, and we're doing that less because it feels like in our surroundings, there is always layered elements of things happening around us, and that has a role on our state, and it has an overwhelming, it can have an overwhelming impact on our nervous system.
Like even I struggle. I used to do it probably once or twice a day. No, not once. Well, once or twice a week, where I'd go for a walk around the park with just try and listen to, and I've spoken about before, this old lady who's super boring, and just try and be present. But I found it so boring, but it's like, I just need to be present with myself, but I find it so hard because it's like your mind wanders, which I'm starting to accept. That's fine. Let's just bring it back. And what I said to yourself and Bonnie the other day was, I count down until the end of a program and have this ongoing fear that I'm going to run out of things to share. And that's where or that by the time lunch comes or the next break comes, I'm going to have to deal with the burning fires. And when we talk about intention, that evening, I set a very clear intention that the next day I was going to be fully present. I went on snooze notifications on Slack, phone do not disturb. And what the result of that was, and just so you know, I almost fear programs. because of the facilitation.
I really honor your vulnerability in this moment.
Which
that
is like-
cannot be an easy thing to say as the CEO of a youth organization.
Yeah, and that's why there's so much respect for facilitators everywhere and also teachers, because it's like 7 hours of presence is required.
Yeah.
But the result of it and the intentions that I set with both you and the team was that tomorrow I'm going to be fully present, and the outcome of it was I literally messaged almost every person in the organization say, I love delivery.
Yeah.
I was like, this was literally the best day ever. He put me on more programs.
Amazing. And so, okay, can we flip presence on its head for a second? And can we just explore for a moment, what does non-presence feel like? Like, what does it feel like in our mind? What does it feel like in our body? What does it feel like in our environment? How does it feel and what does it look like to not be present?
What's next is always the question. What's next or what's before? Like it's, well, you know, the word comes from present tense, right? And for me, it's always been the struggle to be present comes from worrying about what's next or worrying about what's already happened with no control of the now. Sorry. However, when we're present, it's the full control of now and how we respond. And I think when we do that, whether it be within a classroom or within a program, it's taking away from our ability to actually engage, to be able to build relationship, to be able to build genuine connection, is all of them things that happen when we're not present. We can't achieve them when we're not present.
And it feels a little chaotic and it feels a little overwhelming and it feels foggy in our mind. And I think it feels more draining and less connective. And I also feel like, and I've been reading a little about this lately, presence and anxiety actually have a connection, right? So anxiety, and obviously there are many complex forms of anxiety, but if we were going to simplify it down to our daily anxiety levels, you could more or less frame it up as anxiety is worrying about something that has gone before or worrying about how something might unfold.
Wow.
So when we are in presence, there isn't that worry about the past and there isn't that worry and concern about the future.
Do you think
and that equals decreased levels of anxiety.
Do you think you can be present whilst obviously having these worries and anxiety, or do you think presence exists in a silo?
I think many people can be present and also have lingering amounts of anxiety. And that's we're not clinical specialists here. Like that's
disclaimer.
Pardon?
Disclaimer. Not Dr. Will, not Dr. Amanda.
That's we are speaking in layman's terms here and we're speaking in very generalized ways. I think, of course, some people are going to have that level, that hum of anxiety, but I think it is absolutely reduced when we are taking the actions and putting the strategies in place to be as much as possible in the present moment.
So maybe we should dive into why it matters.
Why does it matter?
Because I think, again, permission to share from my experience and
Please
then to
do.
see if it relates to you. When I've been distracted within a program or a facilitation piece, the students know it. They know when I'm distracted. They know when I'm chaotic, and they almost emit that same level of energy back. So my ability to facilitate conversations and land learnings is dramatically reduced, right? And in turn, we can't achieve the outcome that we want to achieve.
And I would loop that back to what I was kind of leaning into earlier, which is when you're not present, there's an element of your state being disrupted or your nervous system being disrupted. And there's some very interesting emerging data on synergy. And what it is telling us is that the role of the state of the leader in a space, whether that leader is a coach, a captain, a teacher, a facilitator, a CEO, the role of their state has a physiological and psychological impact on, at a subconscious level, on the individuals they are leading.
Where does the trout swim from?
The fish swims from the head.
And this is something you've told me, like many,
the original quote? That's not the original quote. We've reframed the quote because the original quote is a bit too hectic. The original quote is the fish rots from the head down.
Oh.
How's
Bro.
that?
Oh, wow. Does it actually swim from the head as well, or is that not true?
No, it's a metaphor.
But like, does it rots? I'm assuming the fish actually rots from the head down.
I don't know if it's real, but the metaphor is like when you compare it to leadership, it can rot from the head down, it's like the fish swims from the head down. So
you've had this experience, right?
Well, 100%, and in both ways, right? So poor leadership or chaotic leadership plays a role and trickles down into the team, the students, the young people, whoever it is. And similarly, regulated, consistent, present leadership, whether that be teaching, facilitating, trickles down into the state of the young people, which is exactly the same thing that you just said. I've noticed when I'm not present, when I'm a little chaotic, it's almost like the students feel that, and it's almost like they show up in a similar way. They literally do. It's a physiological response.
You've taken away almost an element of certainty from them. That they're being held, you're supporting them, you have their back, right?
And we're wired, like we're primal beings. We're wired to read and respond to our environment. Our prefrontal cortex, or our thinking and responding brain, is wired to read and understand what's going on. And if something doesn't feel safe, or if we don't have a safety net, our nervous system responds to protect, or responds and falls into the pattern that we're being led by.
And this co-regulation
I feel like we just
right?
got very theoretical.
Well, Dr. Will and Dr. Amanda right back at it.
No, let's just we are not clinical specialists.
Disclaimer number
We
2.
just happen to, but we do so much research in this field. And, obviously at Youth Engagement Project, so much of our work is, whether it's with community leaders or youth organisation leaders or local council leaders or school leaders or teachers, so much of our work is how do we show up more effectively in what we do to enhance the outcomes for the young people we work with. And the fact is, the state and the place that we are in and the level of presence and our capacity to regulate ourselves plays a crucial role in that.
What's the difference between the YEP office and a research lab? Not much. You would literally walk into a YEP office and you would either think it's a research lab or they're doing some meta-analysis of something.
Journal articles everywhere, books highlighted.
Literally.
Post-it notes and butcher's paper, building out new content. We love it. It's so exciting. But the challenge becomes not issue, but we started off with presence and I was saying presence can be hard to break down and go, what does this actually mean and how do I actually implement it? So much of this research and so much of this information can sit in that theoretical level. Yeah. And so our biggest challenge and the thing that our biggest intention in this space is to take that and translate it into what does that mean for you? Mm-hmm. What does that look like for you? So maybe a best place to go from here is okay, well, presence is great. How do we create it and what are our strategies for being present in our spaces? Because we know the impact and power that has not only on our well-being, but on the well-being of the people we're leading.
And simple, small shifts, right? That's all we need to do. And this is our present strategy.
Present strategy.
It's a present from us to you.
Oh my God.
Not the doctors. Not the doctors. So it works like this. It's an acronym. Guess what? It's also called present. But P is for pause. Because what I also shared was that I never feel not present when I'm on stage at national tour or whatever it may be, right? Or when I'm walking on stage doing a keynote. And I think that's because there's very much a pre-stage, I'm going to get woo now, pre-stage ritual of
okay, we're over there.
There's that pre-stage ritual of I go into a room, I do my deep breathing, I do my vocal warm-ups, I listen to You Can't Hold Us by Macklemore and Ryan Lewis.
You regulate and prepare your system and your being.
So P is for pause.
And breathe. I think, if we're gonna say what's the quickest and fastest way to do our pause and to prepare ourselves, I think you can never go past breath. Breath is power. And I'll speak a little more about that in the R, which is about regulation. But the other thing in pause and preparation is we can set an intention. So you always, when you say your pre-stage ritual, that does sound a bit woo, but it's literally just, it's breath, it's pump up, it's setting an intention. You never walk on without setting an intention. And that's like setting
And
a goal.
nor does our team to anything.
No, exactly. And that is just about setting a goal and setting, here's the location we want to travel to, and then we know where we're going and we move in that direction. And
Science, neuroplasticity. the reason why it happens. Okay, maybe I'm the researcher now. But when we set an intention, our brain does this thing called neuroplasticity, and our cells start moving in the same direction as our intention. Is the TLDR, maybe it requires a little bit more research and science behind it, but that's the summary of it.
we love it. What's the difference between a Weiler office and a research lab?
There's a little bit more chaos in the research lab.
So the P stands for pause, and that is that check-in. The R stands for regulate your body, and this is deeply connected to the state of our nervous system, and we use that word state, which kind of just boils down to how are we
Not the
feeling?
geographical area.
No. How are we feeling and what is going on in our body? So I think just a quick check-in is really powerful. If we are noticing that we are taking things really personally, that is a sign that we're dysregulated. If we're noticing that we're holding tension in our body, if our breath is shallow or we're holding our breath, if we are maybe almost like wanting to lash out with control or punishment in response to things that are going on, these are all signs that we are dysregulated. So what we need to do in response to that is regulated, because from a dysregulated place, we will not experience presence. Mm-hmm. We will not be present. So the fastest way to regulate our body is to release that tension physically, and then breath is the next best way. So taking some deep, slow breaths. Inhale for 3, exhale for 4. Relax your shoulders, release your jaw, just roll your shoulders back. Inhale again for 3, exhale again for 4, and feel your state calm.
And you probably realize that you do this subconsciously as well, right?
Of course.
Because like you'll see people twist their neck or release their shoulders or like just relax, and that's our body subconsciously trying to regulate itself, right?
100%.
The R was regulation. The E is engage your senses. And this is around understanding and feeling and knowing what is around you, right? What it like literally like when I used to listen to this audio of this old lady speaking, she'd be like, feel the grass between your toes. What can you hear? But it's that trigger point of bringing you right back to where you are right now.
Mm-hmm. And have you had that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 strategy when it comes to senses?
What is it?
So it's like 5, notice 5 things you can see, notice 4 things you can hear, notice 3 things you can
Smell?
touch, notice 2 things you can smell, notice 1 thing you can taste.
Wow.
And that going through that process is highly regulatory.
Maybe you should do one of these old lady podcasts. Sorry, you're not old, by the way. Just a lady podcast that talks to our senses. Quick little dig out of that one real fast.
Oh gosh. So the E is
Sky, where are you?
So the E is for engage your senses. The S is for slow it down.
Ooh.
The faster we are moving, the faster our pace is moving, the faster we are speaking, the sharper we are speaking, the more dysregulating that is for our nervous system. If we can slow down our movements just by 10%, our pace just by 10%, that is going to have a regulatory effect on our body, and it is going to bring us further into presence. Slow it down.
And potentially one of the greatest things that I've learned from Youth Engagement Project in the trainings, right, is I used to, when I start to dysregulate on stage or lose my presence on stage, is to speed up and jumble over my words. What?
Really?
Yeah. Sorry. I fell into that one so hard. But yeah, did you not notice? Wow. And since obviously spending a lot of time with yourself and Sky, it's now that slow down, pause, re-catch where I am. I won't do the 5 senses on stage because I'll be there for a while. But to just understand now I'm here rather than going faster. Mm-hmm. I'll stumble over words. I'll stumble and I'll jumble and I'll fall. Mm-hmm. But it's that pause, take a breath and restart.
Absolutely.
Slow it down. The S was slow it down. The E was empathize with yourself. I think this comes from sometimes what we spoke about at the very start of the episode, right? There's always going to be things going on. And to fully shut off sometimes is difficult, and it's not always going to be perfect. It will never be perfect, actually. Fun fact. But to have empathy for when you aren't present, to acknowledge why and to empathize with that and have that self-empathy for you to be able to bring it back. Because if you just ignore it, it's probably not going to help either, right?
The E is empathize. The N is notice the room or notice your environment. So this is where we're getting a little outside of ourselves and we're opening up to reading the space around us. What is going on? Are there pockets of anxiety? Are there pockets of disruption? And when we're noticing the room around us, we're getting really curious, because if we're dysregulated, we're probably leaning into judgment. If we're regulated, it's easier to lean into curiosity. So we're becoming present with what's going on in the room. We're noticing what is happening, and that allows us to become present with what is going on around us.
And our best facilitators and our best teachers have the ability to read the room because they notice exactly what's going on in their
100%.
The N was notice the room. The T is tell the truth. My favorite thing to do mid-program is like do co-regulation.
Yeah.
Where it's just like pause and literally be like, everyone take a big deep breath in and out. And we're just doing a quick reset. And that, I think, there's a part of it because you don't want to break their trust of your skill or your power. But I also think you're taking them on the journey that sometimes things are chaos. Sometimes the things are moving fast.
I also feel like there's nearly nothing more powerful for young people than to see that the adults or the leaders in their world are human. And being human means things are imperfect. And being human means there are moments where you get a bit overwhelmed or you have a bit of a scattered moment. And it's okay within professional bounds to share that, and in fact quite empowering. So if we're standing at the front of a classroom or the front of a program and we're kind of losing our thought, or this is actually a public speaking strategy that we teach around sharing your humans. It's highly sharing your human. It's highly relatable. So if we're having a moment where we're feeling a bit scattered or we lost our train of thought, it's okay just to be like, team, I just lost my train of thought. Who else does that happen to sometimes? And by the time we acknowledge it, through acknowledging it, instead of making ourselves wrong or trying to push through and ramble, or then
rambling,
maybe
that's my mechanism.
Yes. So yeah, I think telling the truth or acknowledging the reality is incredibly powerful on multiple levels. And it's a strategy for presence.
The T was tell the truth. So
Love it.
Let's summarize. Firstly, presence isn't everybody has the ability to have presence. It's not a one, if you have it or you don't have it. It's a practice.
Yeah.
And over time, when we do more of it, we get stronger at it.
And I also think presence has maybe been framed as a bit woo or connected to meditation or whatever it is. Presence is actually the most effective tool in leadership, I believe. So it's a hard skill, it's a human skill, and it is practicing it, noticing it, becoming aware of how it feels, becoming aware of what not presence feels like is a lifelong skill.
And when we model it from the front of the room, whatever that room may be for you, the likelihood of you getting it back is so much more as well.
This has been the one about presence.
We will see you next week. See you. Bye.
Bye.
I'll be here for you, 'cause you're there for them too.
Thanks so much for tuning into Podclass. If you've enjoyed this episode, we would adore it if you could go on to Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you listen to your podcasts, and leave us a review. 5 stars would be lovely. We would love to get this podcast into as many ears as possible so we can help and support as many people as possible who help young people. And if you're not already doing so, please go along to Instagram and follow us at podclass.aus.